when you're kind of working as a record label A&R, do you look at an artist's fan base? Do you look at growing that? Do you look at working to grow that? Like, how does that work in artist development? Because obviously if you're signing just a single, no, it doesn't fucking matter. You just sign a single. But if you're signing an artist for like 5 to 8 records, that's over a year, that's over 2 years. And then you generally always have an option after that. So that might mean that you're probably signing 10 records in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah. I think you're absolutely right. One record is just not it's not that significant for a release. Obviously, it's nice to have them, for the artist to already have that following. But when you're trying to develop an artist, it comes back to what we said about the kind of the smaller number of core fans. The people that will buy a ticket for your show is less numerically than the people that will stream a song.
Yeah.
But if you are a key fan of an artist, you will stream that song 10 times, 20 times. You'll save it. You never skip it.
Yeah.
These are all important metrics for a record label. So when we're working longer term on an artist, it's really important that we can kind of do whatever we can to support that their kind of live thing, because it's just a huge part of a cohesive artist. And we talked about how less and less gigs, streaming, radio all come hand in hand, but the dream is still to have all of those three things.
Yeah.
Like if you can be an artist that has gigs, streaming, radio, you're ticking all the boxes, and you're more valuable to everyone who works with you. In a kind of, because it's exposure for your music that you're making, exposure for the new releases, it's exposure to new fans always as well, because any gig you play, there will be fans that are not there to see you most of the time. So you can play your music to someone who's never heard of you before, or might not know you before. Because if you're supporting a headliner, for example, but they might see your set and be like, "Oh, that was the best set of the night." Then they're a fan on the music as well. And equally, like radio wants to know what else is going on for an artist.
Totally.
They don't just want to see streaming data. They want to see, is he playing any festivals? Is she playing, this gig here and there? Like, so it all kind of feeds in, and definitely we want it to be a cohesive thing. That said, it is difficult from a label's perspective to engineer bookings, and very few labels actually have that power. Now you've got kind of obvious ones like Defected and Anjuna. Have got like this amazing infrastructure where they have the record label, and it's kind of supported by just events around the world. And their artists can play the events, they can premiere their new music there. Armada, Armin van Buren has it with A State of Trance. It's a little ecosystem where you can just launch, grow, and kind of capitalize on music and artists from every angle. Generally speaking, though, record labels don't have that full kind of package of infrastructure, and I think especially when artists come to Armada, because we're a bigger label, that I always get asked, right, what can you do for gigs? And it's difficult because the short answer is not a lot. We can give you opportunities when they come, and sometimes we do showcases and we do events, but on a smaller scale than a lot of other labels. So it's what we can do is we can help you make your music as successful as possible so that you get more bookings. Does that always translate? No. Does it sometimes translate? Yeah, of course. We work with a lot of artists who we have a big record with them, and then we see there's always a little bit of a delay, but 2-3 months later, the bookings start to come in now because people are aware of the record. And a good example of that is Shaq, who's just had that massive Trick one moving all around. As far as I'm aware, he wasn't a big kind of touring artist playing out in a whole lot of places before that track. It's come out now, and I'm seeing him on every lineup. And it can definitely translate, but it's not. But again, Trick is a label that has an event branch, but he's not just playing Trick events. But it is a difficult one. It's difficult for labels to have a kind of huge impact on bookings, for sure.
Well, I think it's a really interesting side of the business, because why is Siri coming up? Financially, an event makes way more sense for a label, right? To kind of throw events if they're successful.
Yeah, so it's an interesting one, and I know some of the big labels that run events are actually funded by the event branch.
100%.
Recorded music is hard to make money from these days. Events, if you do it right and you have a core fan base, you can make a hell of a lot of money in. At Armada, my boss, Michael, he's always said, we're a music company, we're not an event company. So there's very rarely ever been Armada events. That's just the way he wants to run the company. And it's a totally valid, approach to it for sure. Like, it's just different, and different businesses work in different ways. But, you can come to see some of these big labels as actually these days more event companies.
100%. Yeah. I think also it's like, you have to brand your company very differently if you want to be an event. Yeah. It's not about the music. It's about what can the music do to sell tickets.
Yeah. And the two that I mentioned before, Defected and Anjuna, are great examples of labels that can sell an event without announcing a lineup.
Yeah.
Because you go... If you want to go to a Defected event, you want to go for house music. House is a feeling. House is a spiritual thing. Like that's what you want to hear. And like, you're going to hear the same records played by different DJs. Yeah. Kind of to a certain extent, not all the time. But.
No, but yeah, totally. It's you know what you're going to get. It was the same with Dirty Bird when I was signed to Dirty Bird. It was like, the Dirty Bird events, you know exactly what you're going to get, and you know what artists you're going to get on there, and you know what music you're going to get. That's what people go for. I think it's just a really interesting way to like how labels work. It's more so the label is the brand rather than the artist.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's a big part of those events and there can be a conflict of interest there because the label wants to be the brand, whereas if you're an artist who wants to be a headliner selling out Wembley, you can't sit on a label lineup forever. You need to sell your own shows. Yep. And there can be a conflict of interest there.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's what happens a lot, and that's why I really respect what Jamie Jones has done with Paradise, is where he kind of stopped. He didn't take it the Hot Creations route, and it was like Paradise is a night. And Paradise is separate to Hot Creations, although it has the link to it. But I think it was a fucking clever way to not lock in. Like, if you're signed to Hot Creations, you're not necessarily playing Paradise. Yeah. And if you're playing Paradise, you're not necessarily signed to Hot Creations. Yeah. And I think it's kind of, it takes out the politics. Yeah. Of the label, like. We all know, like, those label nights don't pay the artists as well. It's everyone knows that because they don't need to. If you know what I mean, they can put anybody on and it doesn't matter because they've sold the tickets already. Yeah. Which then creates a really interesting relationship between the artist and the label. And then if the label's owned by a big DJ, that's when it gets even more. Yeah, even more. I've seen it with Dynamics where like there's artists that are way bigger than the head of the label, but the head of the label still puts them headline in the shows, and you're just like, what is this? Is this an ego contest or is this?
Yeah, there's so much politics. Yeah. So much politics in all of it, and to a certain extent, I do quite enjoy the fact that in my work life with Armada, we're kind of not involved in that. Yeah. It does make it a little easier on that front, just to talk, hey, let's sign your music because I believe in the record. Yeah. Don't come to me because you want gigs because I can't get that for you. I can try and help, but I can't promise you it. Come to me because you've got a wicked record or 5 wicked records and we want to work them and there's we want to grow your kind of releasing career and that will in turn help with the gigs and stuff. But for sure, it's a minefield out there